In today's session, let's get things started. This is what I wanted to give you. We missed the anniversary day for the Marine API community. And for those of you who might be new to these sessions, I want to give you the heads up that this community started back in 2021 or 2022, if I'm not getting this wrong, in Madrid with Luis and Jimena, who are the founder and co-founder of the community. Their intention at the beginning was to empower all of you practitioners and enthusiasts for all RPG things. And then we expanded to also welcome the amazing product from Google Cloud Application Integration. So this space will always be for you and by you. So congratulations to Luis and to Jimena, who were the founders of the community. I don't know, Luis, if you would like to say something to the community about how you've seen we have grown and taken this globally.
You should tell me yesterday to prepare some words.
I want to
It's
call
a
you
revenge. It's a revenge. No, yeah, of course, I can say some words. I'm really happy to see that the community has grown in the way that the community has done. Is for me is really proud to have the amount of sessions that we're having, the amount of videos, the useful content that we're creating. So I'm more than happy to see how is taking or how this is going. So nothing else. That's success for all of you, all the people who is still involved in the community, and of course, I'm always being supportive about everything you want to do. So thank you so much, Alex. Thank you so much, Jime, for helping me to create this community and make it even bigger each time.
Hmm. Thank you, Luis. It's a great teamwork. So, but yeah, congratulations, everyone. We're celebrating in this session our third anniversary. With that, I'm just gonna give you a quick wrap up of our simple rules that we have in these sessions. Pulki will be our speaker for today, which is our expert for this session. We can have a Q&A so that you can always engage with the expert and get your questions clarified. We will be meeting almost every Thursday. Actually, we will starting from now on. So next Thursday, we'll see you here next same time. Like I said at the beginning, I was just making sure I was going to be able to record this session so that I can share this with you post event. You will be able to see the recording through the community and through our community YouTube channel as well. And I always like to make these invitations. So if you'd like to join us in this stage, you're more than welcome to share your knowledge with the community. You just have to reach out either via LinkedIn or via the community that you want to be joining us in this stage of this presentation. So you'll all be more than welcome anytime to join us and share your knowledge. So quick check out with you, Pulgi. Do you want to have questions throughout the session or do you want to wait at the end?
No, I think it's fine. People can drop in their questions in the chat, and I will maybe take the time to answer them during the session, or we can, of course, do it at the end. So, but please just drop in your questions as and when they come to your mind, and I'm happy to take them.
Great. Thank you. So with that, like you heard him, we'll have Paul Kilmacher with us today. He's our customer engineer based in the Netherlands. He will be walking us through today agents beyond basic, which is going to be powering custom agents with application integration workflows. So with that, please take it over, Pulkit, and everyone, welcome to your session.
Thank you, Alex. Let me get started. Hey everyone, my name is Pulkit Mathur. So I am responsible for APG and application integration pre-sales in the Benelux region. Benelux is Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, of course. Been in Google for about 2 years, but been in the API space and the integration space for the last, I think, 14 or 15 years or so. So really happy to be here and really happy to share what has changed in the AI world when it comes to Google recently. There have been quite some big changes, and how does APG and application integration link to these changes? So that would be the focus of our session for today. So agents beyond the basics, right? So powering custom agents with application integration workflows. Before we deep dive into the session, just a bit of news. So I saw this LinkedIn post recently on LinkedIn, and I really laughed out loud because this post is very, very true. So this says three things that Google does three things very well. Release killer AI, of course, we know that. Process data better than any other provider, of course, we know that. And third is rename products. So we do like to rename our products quite a lot. And the latest iteration in our journey of renaming products has been renaming Agent Space, which is our SaaS agentic platform, to Gemini Enterprise. So Agent Space, as of 1 week back, has been renamed to Gemini Enterprise, and along with it, there have been some changes that has come. For example, how does architecture that is backing Agent Space slash Gemini Enterprise look like? And before we go into the main crux of the session, that is developing custom agents with enterprise workflows, I just want to take a moment and share, these kind of technical slash overview slides with you, so that you have a complete view of what we are talking about and where we are in the process. So if you can see on the top, there is for business users, the AI applications. Gemini Enterprise is basically your SaaS agent platform, where if you want to take advantage of any kind of agentic AI within your company, of course, you have a couple of connectors. You just connect your enterprise systems to those connectors like Jira, Confluence, SharePoint, Outlook, and so on. And basically, you have got a full agentic AI system ready to go, right? So it is the easiest way to roll out agentic AI across the company. It is the easiest way for your employees to, let's say, take advantage of all the agentic AI that has to offer without the need to build any custom agents yourself. But of course, for technical users, you always want to build some custom agents, because there are maybe processes that are relevant to your company and so on. And for that, we have got many things. So on the left in blue, if you see, there is the Vertex AI platform. That is our OG AI platform, of course, that has Gemini, that has all the other third-party models, such as, let's say, Meta's Llama, ChatGPT, and so on. So no matter which model you want to build your AI apps with, Vertex AI platform is the place to do it. And then you have something called Vertex AI Agent Builder. So if you're building any agents with Google's own ADK, or let's say frameworks like LangGraph and so on, Agent Engine, which you see in the middle, is the place to deploy it. Agent Engine is not just responsible for deployment of the agents, but of course, it can also help in security and so on, governance of all of these agents, no matter which platform they are deployed with. So, and then on the right comes in red, application integration. Application integration is a way to integrate your enterprise data and processes into these agents, what you deploy. And this is the part where we are going to be diving deep into today. If we just look at it at from another viewpoint, we see that in the middle, the simplest way to start is employees. They start using Gemini Enterprise with our first party and third party connectors like Google Drive, SharePoint, Jira, and so on. You can connect your systems easily, and you do not need to build any custom agents whatsoever just to get started. But then what we see across customers is that very frequently there is a need to build custom agents, because there are always, custom processes and so on. So developers, what you see at the top, they can develop these kind of agents, these kind of custom high code agents with many frameworks. And one of the most popular of them is ADK, which was released a few months back. With ADK, you can create these agents, and agent runtime is the GCP service where you can deploy them. And it all comes together in the UI of Gemini Enterprise. So in the UI of Gemini Enterprise, you have all of the default agents that have been given to you by Google itself. You have all of the connections to the systems, which you made by using the Gemini Enterprise connectors like SharePoint and so on. And then you also have these custom agents that you've built using ADK, and which have been deployed to the agent runtime as well. So basically, Gemini Enterprise, it brings everything together, no matter whether it is just connections to your system, whether it is just simple search and extract data use cases, or whether it is more complex, let's say, custom agent use cases. And if I go to the right box, so all of this is powered by some of our underlying base functionalities, and they are the Vertex AI models. So ADK can use Vertex AI models such as Gemini, Llama, ChatGPT, or whatever you want. And then for integrating your enterprise workflows into these high code agents, we've got our low code no code solution, of course, using which you can develop and deploy no code low code business workflows with the help of many connectors as well. And to finish with, you might have a lot of business APIs that you have already developed and built over the years, and these can be managed by APG and used as tools within these high code agents. So this is how the complete picture looks like. Let me go ahead with what we see with customers day in day out. So almost all our customers are right now experimenting with, for example, figuring out how do I take my first steps in this whole agentic world. And typically, the first step, which is the easiest to take, is signing up to Agent Space, which is now Gemini Enterprise. Agent Space has a lot of out-of-the-box connectors, like I said, so it is quite simple to get started to connect all of your systems like ServiceNow, Salesforce, Jira, and so on, using these connectors and taking advantage and taking first steps into your agentic journey as well. So all the search and simple actions like creating Jira tickets, updating any ServiceNow incidents, and so on, it can be done by default with the default connector that Gemini Enterprise has to offer. But then what we see quite frequently is that customers start to ask, okay, so how do I get my agent to do more? Because the real value of agents, I believe it comes from not just getting Jira tickets and creating ServiceNow incidents, but also completely automating those manual, recurring, complex enterprise workflows that involved a lot of emails to and fro, that involved a lot of manual tasks such as creating conference pages and so on, right? So there are for every customer that I've talked to in the past 6 months, there are always these complex enterprise workflows which our customers want to reframe in the agentic world and want to take advantage of agent to complete these tasks rather than doing it manually the way they have been doing it for the past few years. And that is where we come in. So using application integration, we can reframe all of these manual complex enterprise processes into a tool which can be used by a high code agent that you can build. And also all your enterprise APIs can be reframed as tools and can be used by these high code agents that you build. So basically, we not only bring together your systems, but we also bring together your enterprise workflows to ensure that everything can be done by these agents rather than only a subset of the tasks. And we are going to deep dive into this quite a lot today. So we call this the last mile problem. And the last mile problem is, okay, it is easy to get started with these agents, of course, connecting to all of your enterprise systems. But then how do you get your agents to do even more? That is the problem that we will talk about today. So some of the complex, let's say, high value tasks that you might want your agents to do are, for example, onboard this new customer. So onboard this new customer is not just search and extraction of data that can be done by the help of a connector, but onboarding a customer requires a lot of steps, many of which are manual, many of which have a lot of enterprise context and so on. So it is quite a difficult task, even without an agent. Now think of reframing this whole complex enterprise process to be used by a high code agent, and the task becomes so much more complicated. Similarly, there might be other things such as approving a PO or provisioning a particular developer environment. So these are all multi-step complex enterprise workflows that are very hard to reframe in the age of AI. Just taking a step back so that we are all on the same page. How do agents try to connect to your enterprise workflows, right? So they do this using tools, and tools are basically an abstraction of your APIs and your enterprise systems to which agents connect to achieve the goal that you want. So the normal process basically looks like this. The user requests this particular high code or low code agent to do something like fetch that data from Jira. Second step would be the agent breaks down the task through simple steps. Thirdly, the agent calls the right tool to achieve this subtask. After that, the tool provides a response, for example, the list of all the Jira tickets for the user. And finally, the agent shows the result to the user, right? So this is how agents typically work. So as you can see, they work on the basis of tools, and it is super important to give an agent the right tools if you want an agent to fulfill the intent of the user. Now, we talked about fetching Jira tickets and so on, but then we also have to think about, not just fetching data from these enterprise systems, but also these enterprise processes that the agent might need to execute. So think about all the complicated invoice management and payment workflows that you have built in SAP. Think about all the complex processes for applying for various kind of leaves in Workday and having them to go through multiple levels of human approval. Think about also, for example, long running processes in Salesforce to generate a bill with multiple line items for a customer where, for example, multiple checks needs to happen and so on. So all of these are examples of complex enterprise workflows that are present in almost every large company across the world. But yet there is no widely accepted way to reframe these processes in a way that they can be consumed by these agents. And that is what we are going to focus on. So let's take an example. Let's say that you have a new employee that needs to be onboarded to the company. Sounds simple, of course, but not really, because this is an enterprise complex workflow, right? So a user account for this has to be created in multiple systems you have, for example, Jira, Workday, and SAP. And all of these systems might have dependencies on each other. So now you might say that I already have an API, for example, Workday API to onboard a user, Jira API to create a user, and the agent will just figure out the right way to call these APIs in the required sequence, right? Why do I need something on top of that? And to be honest, it is a very valid question as well. So what we see at our customers is that their APIs in their enterprise systems are not yet ready to be consumed by these agents. So these enterprise APIs that we have been building for a long time, they were built to be consumed by applications, and they expect a specific kind of input, which is not how agents work. Agents work on the fly. That is, they determine what is to be called and how to call it at runtime itself. On top of it, we've been building these APIs in a very granular way for a very long time. That means they were, again, built for applications, not these kind of agents. So going back to the user onboarding example, now this single use case would need calling multiple APIs for multiple systems, right? For example, creating a new user in Workday, updates the user's team, create a Jira account for the user, assign him to the right Jira boards, giving him or her access to the right boards and so on, and adding that user to the relevant SAP groups. Now, imagine just giving all of these APIs to a high code agent and expect it to figure out how to call all of these APIs in the required sequence and with the required input and output. So, of course, it is not going to be able to do it because there is a lot of enterprise context which needs to be provided to this agent in order to call these APIs in a successful way and in the right sequence, right? So, and thirdly, security and governance is, of course, number one priority. You won't want to give your agents, let's say, keys to the kingdom. So you won't want to give your agents admin level rights to your enterprise systems, which might invariably lead to data leakage. And it is, of course, a huge security and compliance risk. So let me show you a real example which I came across a few months back. So going back to the customer, going back to the employee onboarding example. So this is what you would typically observe an agent doing when you try to just give it a bunch of APIs and expect it to do something. So here we are trying to create a new user in all of the company's systems by giving all of the user creation APIs from all of the systems like Jira, Workday, and SAP to this agent. So step one, the agent tries to call the Workday API, which is just a post on API/Workday/users. And what we see this that at first try, the agent was failed to determine the right way to call this API. But then step two, agent was able to figure it out, and it was actually able to create a new user in Workday. So that's good. And then the next step was the user being created in Jira. So again, Jira needs a lot of information for a user creation, and the agent needed a few tries to figure out how to call it. But what it failed to determine was that the Workday user ID from the last API's response is the same ID that is needed by Jira in the field user ID. So it failed to have the enterprise context that was required to link a single user account between Workday and Jira itself. So the user was created in Jira, but it had no connection to the user which was created in Workday, which was of course wrong. After that, third step, the user had to be created in SAP. Now, SAP is a different beast. So the problem here was that the company's SAP system is not yet tied to its SSO, which adds a lot of complexity, of course. And of course, we do not know it. So that's why it failed to also create the account in SAP. So as you can see, it is not just about calling these APIs, but also the enterprise context with which these APIs have to be called, mapping the right input and output from the calls to all of these APIs to ensure that the action we want to do is sufficiently correct and we are able to do what the user is asking us to do. So how do we solve this? What we can do here is the best way to solve this would be to provide something called curated enterprise truth to all of these agents that you are trying to build. And for these IT built workflows, for example, onboarding a user, it can be best done with the help of application integration, which is our no code, low code, high code, no code, low code iPaaS tool. And for all of these enterprise APIs that need to be called, the best way to is to migrate all of these APIs into APG Hub, which is our, let's say, single pane of glass for service for all of the services that you have built across the company. And provide these curated enterprise tools to this high code agent so that they have the right tools to action the requests that the user is asking them to action, rather than just giving them all the various APIs that you have built across the company for a long time. So let's see how this looks into practice. Let me just go to the next slide. So this is how we can create a simple workflow that can onboard a user in the right way. Right? And this is an example of how that workflow might look like. So the workflow receives a request from this agent. For example, create this user in all of my enterprise systems. And within the workflow itself, you can configure the format of data which Workday, Jira, and SAP need. And the Workday itself can also take care of all of the data transformation and so on. And it is also responsible for calling these systems in the right format and in the right sequence. And at the end, it delivers a clean and human readable response back to this agent. So rather than throwing all of your enterprise APIs and all of your APIs from all the enterprise systems that need to be called to this high code agent and expecting it to figure out how to call these APIs with the right data, with the right sequence, and so on, we are basically creating a workflow on top of all of these systems, and we are giving this workflow as a tool to this agent so that it can perform the action with which the user is expecting it to. So if we zoom out a bit, this is how the entire stack looks like. So layer one at the top is the AI agent, which is basically responsible for figuring out what the user is asking for and mapping that intent to the right tool. Then layer two below it is the workflow that we have provided to this AI agent as a tool. And we have built that workflow with APG and application integration, which means that we can manage security, governance, and we can ensure that all systems are called in the right sequence with the right data. And layer three are, of course, all the enterprise systems you have, such as Workday, Jira, SAP, and so on, which the workflow needs to connect. So just to recap, the benefits of this kind of approaches. Firstly, the agent has one tool, which is in line with the business task that the agent is supposed to perform, that is onboarding a new person into the company. Secondly, we can ensure security and governance by offloading control of your enterprise systems to the integration platform itself. So you do not have to code all of your security, governance, and so on within the agentic platform itself, but you can offload all of that to an integration platform, which is the best place to take care of all of this. Thirdly, and very importantly, I think this is going to become uh, more and more important as and when companies become more mature in developing these agents. We can separate the business logic from this agent. So even if the onboarding process changes and you have built these onboarding agents for different teams across the company, you can just make the changes at one single place. So, for example, you can just change the reusable workflow which you built instead of changing the code in various agents across various departments, which have, for example, built these kind of agents to onboard users in their particular department. For example, sales might have a different way of onboarding a user, marketing might have a different way of getting a user into the team, and so on. So you can make all of these changes at a central workflow level instead of making these changes in the code of all of these agents which are being used across the company. And fourth, of course, it gives you speed in getting value out of your AI investments. So rather than rewriting all of your enterprise processes with code in a single agent, you now have a central platform where all of your enterprise processes are represented by these workflows. And these workflows can be used either as tools with these agents or without them. And that is really cool because not everything can be solved with an agent, of course, right? There will always be non-agentic workflows within a company, and companies for the past 20, 30 years and so on, they can, of course, they will have the need for these enterprise workflows forever. So this is how the entire process looks like. Now, we have talked about both of these products already, right? Gemini Enterprise is our SaaS agentic platform, and application integration is our no-code, low-code integration one. So how do both of these products work together? So let me show you with the help of an example. So, excuse me. Let's say you are the CFO of a major retail firm, and your company has contracts with various vendors such as Google, Microsoft, and so on. Now, right now, it is a big pain for you to keep track of the various invoices that are being sent by these vendors. And getting simple information like, for example, how much money did you spend with Google in the last 6 months, which is very important for a CFO to know, is a big pain because typically this data is stored in a system like SAP and it can get very complex really quick. So the CFO is spending currently multiple hours per day just trying to keep track of his, upcoming vendor payments and so on. So how do we solve this? So for this, the out-of-the-box connectors, which we have in Gemini Enterprise, are the right way to go because this is just a data extraction use case. You can just extract this data from SAP and you can work the Google magic on top of it, and this data can be displayed and reframed in the format that the CFO wants to, right? So we do have a lot of connectors that you can connect to from Gemini Enterprise itself, and some of them are, for example, SharePoint, Jira, Outlook, and so on. So SAP is just an example here, but it can be one of these systems as well. So once you have configured this connection and once you can get data out of SAP, let's see how the process looks like here. And let me just play this video. It's trying to figure out how to play this video really quickly. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So now we are going to see the UI of Gemini Enterprise. So basically, the CFO is on the UI and he's saying, I need a deep dive into our vendor payments for Google and what was our total spend with Google for this year. Now, the SAP connector is already configured and we can get the data from the SAP connector, which says the total expenditure with Google was something like 1.1 million last year. Now, Of course, we have the Google magic on top of it, which means that you can reframe this data and see this data in the way that you want. So, for example, the CFO wants to break it down by cloud services, licenses, and so on, and everything can be done by Gemini Enterprise here. So, as you can see, you can also see this data in a tabular form, bar form, graph form, and so on. So this is a simple data extraction and search use case, which can be very well and very easily achieved with, let's say, the simple agent-based connectors itself. Sorry, I need to, yeah. But then these are not the only use cases that there are, right? So you don't just have data extraction use cases. You also have these complex enterprise process, which needs to be also reframed in the age of AI. So let's meet somebody from the procurement department. Now she's a procurement officer, and what she does is she gets hundreds of invoices per month from all of these vendors, and she needs to basically manually validate that the invoice amount and the services are correct according to the original contract itself. Now, this is a really big job, and she spends hours and hours per month on this, of course. And that is because the company has contracts with hundreds of vendors, and they're all sending all of these invoices. Now, every invoice has to be manually checked against the original contract that was signed, and it has to be ensured that the figures on these incoming invoices, the line items that are in these invoices, correctly match what was signed in the contract, right? So this takes a lot of manual time right now, and let's see how we can solve this. So what we can do is we can build a workflow, which you can see on the right of your screen. And this workflow is a basically automating workflow that can completely automate the process of manual checking all of these incoming bills against the original contract that was being signed. So basically, we have built a custom agent with ADK, and these custom agent just takes the incoming invoice. It calls this workflow. The workflow in the first step, it calls DocAI, which is our document reading service within GCP. It can extract data out of any PDFs and so on. So it extracts all the invoice data. For example, the sum that is on the bill, the line items which are in the bill, and so on. And then it calls Google Drive to extract the right contract that was signed against this client. And then it can compare and check if there are any discrepancies between both of these. So, for example, is the amount in the incoming bill higher than what was agreed in the contract, and so on? Is the vendor charging me for something that I did not sign up for, and so on, right? So it can compare and return all of these discrepancies to the UI. So in this way, we can completely automate this manual, long-running, complex workflows, which needs to be done manually multiple times a month. And let me show you how this looks like. So this is basically an example of how this enterprise workflow would look like when we model it within the tool. So it is a very drag and drop, easy to use, business friendly tool. And we also have 200 connectors to all of the various systems, which would help you in basically designing this workflow as soon as you can. But let me show you the video on how this looks like. So now she is on the UI of Gemini Enterprise, and she has an invoice that she needs to check against an existing contract. So the agent is starting, and the agent asks her to upload the invoice, which she wants to check. The agent confirms the vendor name, and at this moment, basically the workflow that I showed you is triggered. So the workflow checks both the existing contract in Google Drive and the invoice that she has uploaded just now. It compares both of these documents and it checks them for any discrepancies. Now, as you can see, there are a couple of discrepancies. So the next logical step for her would be to stop this invoice from payment processing in SAP, which she does. And the next logical step would be to send an email to the supplier asking them to rectify the bill. So, which can also be done with the help of the Google Magic in the UI. So this is an example basically of how we can reframe, these long manual complex workflows also with the help of application integration and enable your tools, enable your uh, AI agents to use them as tools as well. So just going to the next slide here. I think there is one or two questions on the chat, so let me just take them before we go forward with the slide deck. So with MCP servers being more prevalent, whereas almost all vendors are providing MCP servers to connect query action on their platform from agents, how is this offering being differentiated? I think really good question. I think we are also getting this question from a lot of people as well. There are a lot of providers like Jira has recently released its MCP server, which is actually really good. I know Workday is also working on their own MCP server offering, so that should come out quite soon as well. But then the question remains, right, where is the platform that can centrally manage all of these MCP servers and so on? In a way, if you look at it, this is similar to the, let's say, the role that API management solutions played in the API sprawl. So you can build APIs wherever you want, but then where is the central platform that is used to manage all of these APIs? You do need an API management platform for that, right? If you have just one single API, probably you don't need it. Similarly, if you're using just one single MCP server from Confluence or so on, then you don't need an MCP management platform. But enterprises will need multiple APIs, MCP servers, and connectors. There are a ton of, let's say, on-premise systems which are never going to release any MCP server, and there would be a platform that would be required to reframe those APIs from all of these on-premise systems into, any kind of, let's say, agent, um, um, any kind of, let's say, way in which agents can consume them. So it is more of a platform play, not of a single MCP server play, if that makes sense. And we think that as and when more and more complex enterprise agents are going to be built by companies, this is going to become more and more important. Okay, hopefully that answers the question. Let's go ahead. And what I want to share is I also want to share a customer success story from an insurance platform in Germany. So basically, the use case is that so I worked the past few months with an insurance platform, which is based out of Germany. And what that platform does is there are about 30,000 brokers that work on that platform day to day to manage quite a few things. So the first thing that platform gives to them is the ability to view the latest version of all the customer data and so on. So customer data is of course very, very important for these brokers to know, because a person might change jobs, might change homes and so on. So to ensure that they are providing the right insurances to these customers, it is very, very important for them to know the latest version of the data for all of these customers. So this is more of a data search and extraction use case. But then this was not the only use case they had. There were a lot of enterprise workflows that they were doing manually as well, which was also taking quite a lot of time from not just brokers, but also the employees of this insurance company as well. And one of the enterprise workflows which was taking the most amount of time was the broker payout workflow. So whenever a broker has sold a couple of insurances using the platform itself, he or she would expect a commission to be paid out. And right now, this whole process is done with the help of emailing back and forth. There is also a legacy business rules processor, which has a couple of thousands of business rules, which determines whether an agent should get a payout or not. And there are also manual things that the employees in the company needs to do. For example, creating conference pages in order to ensure that there's a record of every broker payout request and where the approver can approve or deny the particular broker payout request and so on. So we are going to talk about how did we solve these problems. First of all, talking about the simple search and data extraction use case, right? So again, Gemini Enterprise has connectors which you can use to connect to all of these systems where the customer data was being hosted. For example, some customer data was being spread across Salesforce, Gmails, BigQuery, and so on. And with the help of Gemini connectors, we could connect to all of these systems and we could collect and collate all of this data and show the latest version of the data. So this is more of a simple data extraction use case like the CTO SAP use case that I showed you. So this can be easily achieved with the help of Gemini connectors itself. But then we are coming to the more complex use case, which is the broker payout use case. So what we did was we created a custom agent there with ADK, and we surfaced this ADK agent into the UI of Gemini Enterprise. And this ADK agent had this workflow, which you see on the right to do the business process. So first of all, this workflow receives a commission payout request. The first step it does is it calls the payout calculator. And this payout calculator has a couple of thousands of business rules, which take about 2 or 3 hours to run. So this workflow waits for the payout calculator to complete processing. It gets the response from the payout calculator, and then it creates a page in Confluence using our Confluence connector, and it tags the correct approver so that they can approve or deny it. So all of these emailing back and forth, all of these manual data entry into the payout calculator, all of the manual creation of the page in Confluence and so on, we were able to completely automate it with this workflow and then expose this workflow as a tool to this custom agent, which we will to ensure that work can be done more smoothly. And this is the application integration workflow that we created. So as you can see, quite a lot of steps. So quite a lot of steps that had to be done in the enterprise workflow. So the key point that I want to highlight here is that no matter how many steps there are or no matter how complex an enterprise workflow is, it can be modeled very simply and easily with the tool, and that can be exposed as a tool within the custom agent that you're trying to build. So what I want to do is I want to show you a demo of the live agent that is in production now. So let me just play this. So this is in German, but we have subtitles at the bottom, and I will try to walk you through the process as well. So this is how we start the processing. An employee of the company asks this agent to process a payout of about 200 euros for a makelar. So in Germany, a makelar is called a broker, of course. And the agent starts the processing, and the first step is that it reconfirms some details such as the broker ID, the request type, which is the commission payout here, and the requested amount. So the first step is that the user confirms these details. Now, in the second step, the agent gets some more data from BigQuery, such as broker security deposit, available collateral, key account manager, and so on, because all of this data is needed by the business rules engine in the background. So we need all of this data to be confirmed by the user as well. And of course, a manual approval is required for this. So the agent also fetches a potential approver and asks the user to confirm. So the user says, okay, everything looks good. And the agent displays one final time all the data, which will be sent along with the payout request to the backend business process system. So the user reviews all the data, make sure everything is right, and then confirms so that our application integration workflow to trigger the business rules engine can be started. And the agent says that the payout request has been created and asks if the user has any more request. And it is at this moment that the application integration workflow that I showed you is triggered in the background by this agent. And the application integration flow does its work. It calls the business rules engine. The business rules engine gives back the response. And with that response, the application integration workflow, it creates a conference page, which we are going to see quite shortly. So this is the conference page that was being created manually by the employee previously, which also used to take quite a lot of time. As you can see, the approver is also tagged in the starting so that the approver gets a notification on if there is a payout request to be approved. And then this is all the data which is coming from the business rules as well. So by using all of this data, it is quite easy for an approver to get a single view on everything that is going on within this payout request. So in this way, TLDR, we could reframe this complex enterprise workflow, which used to take a couple of hours at least and a lot of manual effort, and were able to completely reframe it, completely automate it, and use it as a tool within this agent. All right. So that was what I had to show you. Let me go to the next slide. It's always a bit tricky with the videos. Let me. Oh. So what I also want to highlight is that after 2 weeks, we have a workshop, which is a 3-hour workshop, which we have developed. And this workshop will basically let you be hands-on with building enterprise agents with ADK using APIs with APG API Hub and integration workflows built with application integration as tools. So if you are interested in integrating any of your enterprise systems using APIs or integrating any of your business processes as tools within custom agents, please join this. I think this is going to be really, really nice, and we will be really, really excited to host you here. EMEA times, I think it is 5 to 7 p.m. CET, but also you can see the US times here if you are in the US as well. So we really look forward to welcoming you in this workshop. And that was it for me. And now it is over to Alex.
Thank you, Pulkia. That was a great session. I think we have a couple of questions. Anil, you mentioned you wanted to pop a question to Pulkit. Feel free to open your mic and do that.
Okay. Yeah. So in my experience, what I observe is when we use ADK in local and when we deploy it in agent space, the authorization process is little bit tricky.
Yeah.
So what has been happening, and it's very little documentation on Google agent space also, the how to inject a token at runtime. So my question is, does ADK handle by itself, or do we need to override and do the token exchange by as a developer?
Now, so you can pass a token from the UI of agent space to ADK, and ADK can handle the token. That is for sure. I've seen that myself. I think the complexity comes when you have to pass the token from ADK to one of the downstream systems. So, and those downstream systems can be an open API spec. It can be an integration connector and so on. So depending on what the downstream system is, the way to pass this token along to that downstream system is a bit different. But if you are just talking about passing a token from the UI of agent space to ADK, I think that part works well. But if you have if you see something is not working right, I mean, ADK is still a new product, right? It has been launched just for a few months. If you see any problems, feel free to raise issue in the GitHub repo. I know the ADK development team looks at it very, very closely, and almost every week there is a prioritization mechanism where they prioritize, all the issues that are on the repo. So please feel free to make use of that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I was speaking, I was muted. I'm sorry, Tim. I was going to say before I give you the word to you, Biswanath, I wanted to read out loud the question from Kurt. He says, I'm also having troubles with an ADK agent added to agent space and unable to access the connectors. I cannot seem to find any docs on allowing an agent to use the 1P third-party connectors in agent space.
Yes, I do agree, and I do take the point that documentation is pretty thin on this. Right now, what we're doing is we are working with the ADK team to handle this process completely seamlessly. There is already a pull request open, which we are waiting for the ADK team to merge. Right now, if you want to do this right now, get in touch with your customer engineer on the account that you are working on, and he or she can help you with a workaround that can enable you to pass a token from the agent space UI right down to the integration connectors. So it is possible, yes, but there's a little bit of a workaround that needs to be done right now, which we hope should be fixed in the next few weeks.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, then I can also read the next one. Danielo says in this workshop 29, did we will work in application integration only with Jira and Confluence or with some other services? So I think Danielo, you might have done the previous quick lab which we developed, which go ahead. Okay. So yes, so you seem to have done the quick lab in maybe one of Matt Feigel's sessions. Yes, that quick lab was for working with Jira and Confluence. However, the workshop that I shared just now, it is a new version of that, and it is a new and enhanced version of that. So in this workshop, we will not be making use of any connectors, but there is an application integration workflow which is going to be used, and that workflow is going to be used as a tool in the custom agent that we are going to build. So it is not the same lab, it is a completely new thing, and I think it would be very useful to attend.
Thank you, Pulkit. So, Ms. Wana, you have your hand raised. A question?
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So my question related to like a Gemini Enterprise, of course, because lots of organization they are looking for. This is recently released, it was earlier agent space. But for example, healthcare industry or some other industry, if they want to use Gemini Enterprise to, for example, doctor want to use the patient data, or maybe nurses will use the patient data to how the improve the efficiency or how to get the information so that quickly they can able to provide the treatment to the patient, right? So will it be possible to integrate with the medical private network this solution?
Yeah, of course. So I think the first question that needs to be asked here is the data on Google Cloud or is the data on premise in one of the healthcare systems that healthcare professionals use. In both cases, this data can be used by these custom agents that you built or potentially within the just natively within agent space. So there are both options. If you want to keep data on premise, we can access it with the help of APG APIs, for example, to make sure that the data is accessed in a secured and governed way. That can be done, of course. There are also various possibilities within the UI of agent space as well to access, data which is not within the remit of one of the connectors that we provide. So there's a custom connector functionality within the UI of agent space as well. You can potentially look at using that as well. So multiple options, but then to answer this question properly, we will need to deep dive a little bit into this. So I would again advise you to reach out to the customer engineer, which is associated with the account, and he or she can definitely help with this.
Okay, all right. So as we move on to agent space, but the ADK, AI agent, MCP all together, which we are customized it, right? For example, a multi-agent which we are planning for travel and flight agent, then ultimately it will be possible to integrate with our Gemini Enterprise to build a travel agent or flight agent to book a hotel or book a flight. Will it be possible?
Yes, it will be possible. So typically in this case, what you'll do is you'll create a custom agent according to your custom use case, and that custom agent might talk to other agents. It might talk to services which are using MCP to connect to enterprise systems and so on. And you can surface all of these custom agents in the UI of agent space. So you have a single place for all the agents, whether they are custom built agents to access all the connectors and all the custom agents which you want to build. So agent space is intended as the central single pane of glass for accessing all of your agents, no matter which platform they're built, how they're built. For example, if they're calling multiple other agents or so on, doesn't matter, and using all of the out of the box connectors which we offer.
So it will be enabled for external user as well, because as you couple of demo you show, so internal company stakeholder or CFO, CTO or senior spokes, they are try to understand what is going on, and we want to get to know that what need to be checked the invoice to release a payment, something like that. But if we want to create a outside external user, as I said, for example, I am an external user. I want to book a doctor or book a travel. So, will it be possible to use this Gemini Enterprise?
That depends on a lot of things. So Gemini Enterprise is intended for internal company use, that is for the employees of an internal company, to make it easier to get data from all of the internal systems of a company itself. If you are looking at building an agent, which is primarily for external use, which is to be exposed by using a channel such as a website, web page, and so on. Sorry, can you mute for a moment? Yeah. So if you are looking for an agent which is primarily targeted for external use, I would look at hosting that agent on Agent Engine, and I would investigate into ways to expose that agent to that external channel where you want to expose that agent. Because quite frankly, in this use case, maybe Gemini Enterprise does not add a lot of value.
Okay, all right. So I mean internally, for example, some corporate or enterprise, they are looking for their internal data to be controlled, to manage in a centralized way. So it would be the better way to manage it.
Correct. Yes, that is the primary use case of the product. Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we got one last question from Adrian. What good practice we can apply to interact with external systems that require individual user credentials but are not linked directly with user identity in agent space?
Yes, unfortunately, very common scenario. I worked with a customer recently who had SAP, and he wanted to build a custom agent which was using the SAP connector. But they had the same use case as this, so their SAP username was not the same username with which the employee used to log into the UI of agent space. What we did was we built a custom integration workflow for them. So that custom integration workflow, what it did was it received the email of the employee from the UI of agent space, and then based on the email, we made a call to SAP to get the SAP username of that employee, and then we made another call with that SAP username and with the correct auth and so on to actually get data from SAP. So there is a little bit of custom work to be done in this scenario. But depending on how exactly the systems are configured, I think it can be achieved.
Thank you, Pulkit. So I guess that summarizes our Q&A. But of course, everyone, before I jump into the poll, we have the Integration Services Forum at your disposition, in which you can come in, ask your questions, share your comments, share your feedback with us. You also can find a knowledge hub in it as well, where you can see latest articles and how-to videos that have been shared by Googlers. There are some articles in there and videos that Googlers has shared himself as well in there. So I just pinned to you in the chat the link to the Integration Services Forum, which you can ask all your questions regarding application integration and connectors in this sort of comments. Going a bit backward, I already opened the poll so that you can share your feedback with this session. You'll find the poll on how to access this if you go to your top right corner in your Google Meet. And this will be really, really valuable to us so that we can continue on keeping an insight on which sessions you like the most or what content you would like to see next. So with that, before I wrap up and we thank you, our speaker of today, we'll have the next section coming next Thursday. Our speaker is going to be Mateo, and she will walk you through on how to secure your AI in Apigee and Vertex AI. I'm going to ping to you in the chat the link so that you can register for the session. And with that, thank you so much, everyone. It was really great having you here. And thank you so much, Pulkit, for this great presentation. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
See you soon.